Until they bring the streetcars back. Chapter 32. On Sunday, I tried to cover the bruises on my neck with the collar of my shirt, but my parents spotted them in 2 seconds. I said I'd been wrestling, goofing around on the hayride, and Peggy said I probably got them from all the necking, and we all laughed. Even my dad. I don't know why, but we always celebrated birthdays at breakfast in our family. I don't think it had anything to do with being Norwegian, but we had our sliced bananas earlier than usual Monday morning so my dad could be at the party. My parents gave me a swell double-breasted brown suit to wear at graduation. That will be a red letter day for our family, my dad said. Our high school graduate. I'm already getting proud. I can't believe he's 18, Peggy said. Doesn't seem that old. You'll have to register for the draft now, Calvin, my mother said, with worry in her face. I'm a grown-up now, I said to Peggy, and children have to mind grown-ups. I don't have to mind him, do I, Mom? Do I? She sprang from her chair, pigtails flying, and put a hammerlock on me. Let's spank him. Let's spank him. I pretended to fight them off, but I let them get me down on the kitchen floor and spank me 18 times, and a pinch to grow an inch. Peggy and I had learned not to whack very hard, or we'd get it back when our turn came. I made a wish and blew out the candles on my cake. What did you wish? Peggy said. I can't tell, or it won't come true. None of them in 1700 years could have guessed. My dad had to be at work early. They were shuffling drivers around in their schedules so they could train them to drive buses. I'm a streetcar motorman, not a moron bus driver. I wouldn't drive one of those stinking machines. He pulled on his jacket and picked up his lunchbox. They think the people of this city are stupid, that they'd rather ride on one of those filthy diesel contraptions than on a quiet, clean streetcar. The streetcars have been good enough for 50 years, and they'll be good for 50 more. He went out the back door steaming like a radiator. The way Gretchen been going through nut goodies, I figured that Pearson County Company would have to build another plant. But when I gave her one before the bell in study hall, I realized she wouldn't last much longer. She'd given up, with no sign of hope in her hollow eyes, and the strong little light in her that always surprised me had gone out. I didn't tell her about her father trying to kill me. I thought it would really upset her, and she might snap and go crazy. But now we both had his scars, and I'd never doubt her again. Just a few more days, I told her, and he won't be able to hurt you anymore. God, I was tired of hearing it myself. My words didn't seem to register with her, and her glassy stare said fish stories, only more fish stories. She mumbled something about mothballs, and I didn't get it at first, but I knew they were poison, and then it hit me that maybe she was thinking about killing herself. The bell rang, and the assembly hall got quiet, and I wished I could convince her that it wasn't just talk anymore. Her face told me if I didn't do it quickly, something terrible would happen. All week I went to school and came home with one or more of my buddies, and I didn't stick my nose out of the apartment after dark. When Mr. Finley said stop at the liquor store, my body turned into a gigantic goosebump. I prayed there would be a liquor order, and Finley's words seemed to whack me on the back and send me across the starting line. I slammed the door of the loaded truck and headed up Grand. Spring was popping out all over. I loved it. It always reminded me of Uncle Emil. I planned to wear the green cashmere sweater Lola had given me for my birthday to the dance that night, the Fool's Frolic. That morning, Fool's Day, I'd been on guard, but my dad, more and more gloomy over the wrecking of the streetcars, hadn't tried to hoodwink up me as usual. Peggy was so gullible it wasn't much of a challenge to trick her, but I'd slice a hot dog on a bowl of Wheaties, and I set it in front of my mother at the table with her coffee. She laughed some of the worry off her face and tried to tickle me like she always did. When I pulled in behind the liquor store, I tried to calm down by thinking of Lola and the dance. I'd settled on the number 10 to be sure it was enough to make it a big time crime. And if I could pick off two today, I'd have 10. Inside the storeroom, there were two cases with the yellow order slips tucked on them. I loaded one in the truck, Rydell's down on the river boulevard, and then went to the front of the store to find Sid. Darn, there were no customers, but Sid was sweating over a pile of invoices at the counter. Just the 2 orders today? Oh, yeah, Sid said, glancing up. Just the 2. He was really busy, so I hustled back and heisted a case of Walker's Deluxe and hauled it to the truck. Then, in a cold sweat, I came back for the other real order. When I had that in the truck, my instincts told me to get the heck out of there. But one more would make it 10, maybe $400 or $500 worth. I was so scared I could feel my heart beat in my eyeballs, but I hurdled the steps and grabbed the case of old Fitzgerald. I had slammed the door on the back of the truck and piled in to gun away when Sid showed up at the back door with a bottle of vodka in his hand. Cal, hold on. I forgot a vodka for Rydell's. If I could do it over, I'd just drive away like I didn't hear, but I hesitated a split second. I couldn't think, I couldn't move, and I was lost. Sid was at the back of the truck, opening the door, jumping out, and rushed back in hopes I could distract him from noticing the 2 extra cases in the all in with all the grocery boxes. Here, I'll take it, I said, reaching for the bottle, but he hung on to it and tried to open a carton I'd stolen, thinking it was one that he'd filled with a assortment of liquor. It was sealed, and his eyes were zigzagging all over the place. I stood there like a stump, trying to make up my mind to run, while he looked at the other old Fitzgerald boxes with Rydell's order sticking out. My legs turned to rubber, and my body quit breathing on him. What the hell's going on here? I couldn't tell which eye was looking at me, but I knew one of them. You're stealing from me? You goddamn stealing from me? You little bastard? No, those were all together. I thought they were part of the order. Sid grabbed me by the neck and dragged me into the storeroom. Why, you dirty little crook, you've been stealing me blind. He whacked me on the ear, dragged me towards the front of the store, and I could hear a ringing sound in my head. I thought of breaking away, slugging him, running, but what good would that do? He had me red-handed. He shoved me in the corner behind the counter and reached for the phone. It was just an April Fool's joke, I said. I was going to bring them back. He dialed and I was in a daze, like it wasn't really happening. And I didn't hear much of the call or the cuss words Sids was shouting at me, and I tried to shake myself out of it and use my head. I know you're in on the streetcar deal, and I won't tell the police if you let me go. He straightened his stooped shoulders and looked surprised. What are you talking about? You know, the streetcars and all the money you're making with the other crooks. You've been reading too many comic books, he said, bringing the buses, ripping out the tracks, with Firestone and General Motors. I hoped to make him think I knew more than I did, and for a second Sid's wacky eye narrowed and he looked scared. You don't know what you're talking about, you little snot-nose. Your crazy stories won't get you out of this. A squad car pulled up in front of it, and 2 policemen got out and headed for the front door. I could feel porcupine quills in my throat, and I thought about Gretchen. I failed her. She'd go crazy now, or kill herself. I could hear Uncle Emil's matter-of-fact voice bit off more than he could chew. Handcuffed like a dangerous criminal, I rode in the back of a squad car. Off the top of my head, I told them I'd taken the liquor for some friends, and Sid cried bloody murder that I'd probably been robbing him blind all winter. They drove down Grand Avenue, and I slumped in the back seat, figuring everyone in St. Paul would know about it in 11 seconds. We passed a streetcar coming from downtown, and I thought about how I'd gotten into this and how I'd screwed it all up and what I'd give to be riding the Grand Mississippi home.